investor, I gave him a 50-50 split. I didn't have any money in the deal initially. We actually made money when we acquired it through acquisition fees. I charged an acquisition fee when we bought it to the partnership. That's another way that we make money. So let's say when we buy a property and we're putting together the investors, or depending on if we're syndicating it, we're bringing in multiple investors, we are going to charge an acquisition fee for the management team. And the management team can also include capital raising people. It has to be structured the right way. There are rules when we're doing syndication. But on a lot of the syndication deals that I've done, I mean, we're charging anywhere between a 4 and 6% acquisition fee. So if you think about it, if it's $2 million times 4%, and then from there, we have people who are raising capital. We have there's a variation of other ways too, that we charge for fees. It depends on who's going to operate it. When I was operating it, it's a full-time job. You got to have a lot of people working on it consistently, and it takes time. So, I mean, I've charged construction management fees. We do acquisition fees. Sometimes, we could negotiate with realtors, but the idea of it is to try to make money through the process while we're owning and operating the property. Some of the things that I've learned by trial by fire is, it usually costs more than what we think it's going to cost. And it probably is going to take more time, This particular complex, actually, we bought it in 2019. We had 2,000 city code corrections. There were key dates that we had to have certain things done. And then all of a sudden COVID hit, and we were probably within the first 120 days, I was done with 90% of the renovations on the complex, because we were able to move a lot of people out. We took it out from 35 units occupied down to 5, so we were able to start turning the units pretty quick and start leasing.
So, not to stop your thought
Sure,
process
go
there,
ahead.
Mitch, but that's a conversation I've had with people too, where we talk about keeping your occupancy up to a certain level to cover the debt service, and then
Yep.
renovating the remaining. But you was able to clear it out. It sounds like five. I mean, five was that 5% or 5 units?
5 units. So it's a 57 unit complex. When I bought it, there was like 35 tenants there. 18 of them were drug dealers. So we pretty much paid all of those people to leave, or we went through evictions too on some of them. But then we took it all the way down to 5 units. So, but the other side of that too was that when we did this deal with a hard money lender. This wasn't conventional because you couldn't get financing on it. So one of the things that I've learned by doing several SFR deals and multifamily is that whatever the renovation costs are, I usually add 25 to 50% on top of that. And then I also charge management fees, even when I was the one who was managing the contractors. Because what it did is it allowed me to, in those management fees, I was building mortgage payments in there. Because that's the other side of it, is in the construction side of it, you got to make mortgage payments, right? Every single month. The mortgage payments on this complex were 23, almost 24,000 a month. So whether or not there's tenants there, the mortgage still has to be paid. Now, I mean, we're making, the complex fully leased up is 60,000 a month. So it's cash flowing with hard money.
Right.
But in the meantime, you got to make sure that you're prepared. You don't want to have to end up doing cash call with investors. Sometimes it just happens. I mean, we have 3 fires during COVID. There's, it's out of your control. But to the
How
other
many
side of
fires?
it too is this complex was for sale and actually closing escrow last year. We were selling it for like 6.7 million when we had the 3rd fire in escrow. But that 3rd fire, the funds from the 3rd fire, it burnt 4 units. It smoked out 16. It was a 20 unit, one of the 20 unit buildings in here. But with that, we were also able to just kind of grind the numbers out with our contractors, and we got the whole parking lot done too, which was like almost like 90 grand.
Wow.
So, but yeah, so I've just learned like even if we weren't doing a project of this magnitude, you know, I would still like when we finally do once we're buying the deals that we want to buy, um, we're always gonna make sure that we have reserves, because nobody saw COVID coming when COVID hit, right? Um, and so, making sure that you have mortgage reserves and additional reserves for construction budgets, because even when you go through and you have your construction budget, there's always stuff that the contractors miss and or you and your team are going to miss. There's just always additional work, like these underneath the windows. They all the AC units on the roof are all brand new. When we bought it, none of those were working. So underneath the windows, there were these little wall units where people would cut open the wall and stuck wall AC units in there. Well, whoever put those in there, in the wall, none of the electrical. It was all just kind of wire nutted together in the walls. They weren't in junction boxes. They were just laying right up against the insulation. So, when you start opening this stuff up, you're seeing 20 years of handyman nightmares everywhere, right?
Oh my goodness.
So a
Yeah.
lot of that stuff is stuff that you don't see until you're actually in it, and renovating it and doing, all the stuff in there. Due diligence is very, very, very important with multifamily.
So what does that look
And
like though on
go ahead.
multiple doors? Yeah, I mean multiple doors, Mitch, when you're walking into it and you're able to find issues like that. Are you doing this or is this part of the due diligence period with a team? Like how are you finding mistakes like that before we close?
So there was a couple of things on this particular one. All the ones that I like to do, we will bring a due diligence team in. So we try to bring the whole team in at one time. So, we're not disrupting the whole complex multiple days in a row. So what we'll do is we'll bring a termite inspection team, but when we do that, like, let's say we go into a market, in North Carolina, we get and honestly, I don't care how big the complex is. The bigger the complex, it might take a couple of days to do it, and we'll do it in sections. But a lot of people get really lazy and walk one to, like in this complex, 57 units, they might walk 6 to 10 doors. We walked
Okay.
every single unit with the due diligence team. So, I mean, we had two termite inspectors, three property inspectors. The three property inspectors, one of them is going through and they are they're calling out. One of them's taking pictures, the other one's writing everything down. So we could probably walk a unit in probably like 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, maybe 10 minutes per unit, where we're going through and we're looking at everything. So normally the way it'll go is we'll send the termite inspectors in first. They'll walk through. They're gonna, poke, check everything to see if there's any kind of termites, pest issues. The reason why is because Pace says it best, right? Buyers are liars and sellers are worse. Sellers are not going to tell you there's bed bugs in there. So like I bought in complexes with bed bugs in them before. It's a major undertaking. I bought a complex where um, in California they have roaches. They're called German roaches. I don't know why they call them that, but I mean, we've literally had to move everybody out of the entire complex and tint the entire complex, in order to get rid of the roaches that were at one of the complexes and the bed bugs. So the reason why we're going to go through and we're going to do our due diligence every single door is because it could be the door that you didn't open where there's mold inside the bathroom, right? And now you can have an issue or a lawsuit with the tenant in the future. I've been sued 3 times so far. I'm currently in litigation, and what happens is there's these attorneys out there, and at least where I'm at, like they send letters out. Got roaches, got mold. and they'll send them out to a whole entire zip code. And then all of a sudden, I got served with 2 lawsuits in 1 week in the same neighborhood. That's why I figured it out real quick. Like they were sending it out, and I started calling one of my other property management friends, and he said they get them frequently. So the attorneys will send out these postcards. They'll get people to call, and then they'll go out there. And even if they're the cause of it, they'll take pictures of everything, and then they'll file a lawsuit. What they're trying to do is mainly get your insurance involved. So in the ones where I was involved in a lawsuit, it was where we had just purchased the property from someone. It was probably within the first, like, one of them was like the first 2 weeks of ownership. So we hadn't even got the opportunity to do really any of the repairs or renovations, or, figuring out, like, did we need to fumigate the building or not? But what they did is they sued us and the previous owner. And what they're trying to do is mainly get an insurance claim going and then settle, because that's what they want. So, in our due diligence period, part of it is like, if it's a broker deal, like the broker and the seller, are going to paint this picture. It's just like you looking at this complex right here. You're like, oh, wow, everything looks new here. I mean, if somebody hasn't been inside the unit for 2 months, who knows? It could look like chaos in there. There could be, everybody lives differently on the way that they cook and clean and all that kind of stuff. And so by going in there and taking a due diligence team in there, also getting a roofer out there, having them get up, look at the roof, look at all the AC units, try to figure out, these are major, major, major expenses.
Yeah.
When
Well,
you
I'm
start
sure
looking at
you.
those AC units, I spent over 200. I spent right about $200,000 replacing the AC units on this complex.
Wow.
But one of the things I'll tell you what I did was, even though we went in there, we knew the complex had all these issues. We were able to negotiate with the seller, and I got the seller pay me $225,000 on the close of escrow. And one of the reasons why they were willing to do that was, told them, hey, look, there's a lot of things in here that we didn't recognize. That was one part of it. The second part is they had 2,000 code corrections. The fine from the city was 1.2 million, and we got it reduced down to like 150 grand. I did, by going in and talking to them and coming up with that plan. So, where they were probably going to lose the complex to foreclosure, they ended up making money on it. We got the fines reduced from 1.2 million to 150,000. She wrote me a check for over 200 grand at the close of escrow.
Nice.
And
That's
we
how we
still
make
were
money,
able to
man.
get the money from our lender as well.
Yeah. Solving problems. Dude, I love it, man. That is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, that's it. That's what we're doing, is we're problem solvers. So we got to find the problem. We got to find the bunnies, right?
Yeah. You gotta
That's our
find the
job. We
money.
got to find the bunnies. This particular person, like, literally, like I said, I was probably the 6th person. She was a older real estate broker lady. Her and her sister owned it. She lived 7 hours away. Every time we had a conversation, she goes, I'll be right there. She'd get in the car and drive from LA to Fresno, which is like 6 hours, 7 hours away. We did this particular deal. The friend of mine who had it in contract, who backed out, when he backed out, she called me on Sunday morning and asked if I was ready to do the deal. And I said, yeah. And she goes, okay, I'll be right there. I'll be there in 6 hours. I said, okay, that was Sunday. We actually signed the contract on Sunday.
Wow. Yeah. That's moving quick, man. Hey, I'm just noticing too. I know this is in California, different markets, and you got to see different things. I'm sure you got to answer for
Mhm.
it. There's no gutters.
It's not required.
So that's not even
It,
something that you look at on there. Well, I'm looking at the overhang. The overhang looks like it's actually longer than normal, and I'm wondering if that's the reason why.
so I mean, it depends. Like, if we were going to keep the complex long term, then I would say, okay, yeah, we could probably, add rain gutters in there. If we were going to keep the complex longer term, like a lot of the sidewalks, you could see cracks and stuff in there. You just got to pick your battles. We had so
Right.
many other
Legacy
things that were happening
units
in
and
here.
yeah,
Um,
bigger ticket
like
items.
this is the first time I'd ever seen an apartment complex with gas meters on top of the roof. I'd never seen that before. And I grew up in, construction. But this actually used to be a motel back in the 60s, and somebody had converted it to apartments, I think in the 70s. And so one of the things that we had to do was there was a master electric meter on each building. And so I'll see if I could show you guys. So when I bought the complex, the owner was actually paying $19,000 a month in utility bills.
Okay.
We did kind of like a RUBS program and got it down to about 2,500 a month now. And that's because this complex didn't originally have um, each unit had meters, but they weren't being billed by the utility company. There used to be like some kind of program where I don't know if we'll see them on the ends of the buildings, not here, but some of these boxes over here. Each one had a meter in there, but the meters looked like they were from the 60s or 70s. So nobody was monitoring the meters and actually billing the tenants. So the owner was paying for everybody's utility bill, and they were just getting killed. That was one of the major problems that they had. So I happened to find it. Yeah, like these boxes right here. When you open up the doors, that's the electric meters that are in here for like these 4 units. Then you go down to the next one, and it had the meters in there for the next 4. Well, none of the tenants were being charged for any of those electric bills. So what I did was I found a company that came out there. They actually changed out all of these gas meters and to smart meters. We changed out all of the meters inside these panels for each unit. And so now all of the tenants are paying all the utility bills. So that was one of the big expense savings that we were able to do.
Right. Yeah. I mean, how did that add value to your investors? Right. I mean, invested on this apartment just by finding that. I mean, how much did that change your NOI?
So I mean, this particular property right now, I mean, we just finished it, so we actually have a hard money loan on this property. We're paying like 9.5% interest. But if you look at it, okay, so our total, we've kind of figured out conservatively that like my partner, he's got 800 grand into it. His net when we sell it is going to be 1.5 million. I put 200 grand into it. Mine is going to be 1.5 million on the 200 grand that I put in. So on the NOI side, like if you're looking at it, we came, we're back at the when you get back to the numbers. I don't know if it displays the numbers in here, but at the rate that we're selling it at, it's right at about a 5.75 or so after expenses. The other side too, like, when you kind of go through this much renovations, the buyer for this complex is, somebody who's looking for turnkey, right?
Yeah. I got a
They're
quick
they're not going
question.
to come in and do the heavy lifting
What's
that
the
I did.
rents on this property? Eleven
What'd you say?
fifty a unit? Is it's 11.50 a unit?
The rents are, yeah. So we've got about half the complex now at 1150.
Wow. Okay. So if you did have investors on this, because it sounds like you and your partner, y'all funded this, and then on the second side of the hard money,
Yeah,
if you did have investors though, that little bit of nugget, like knowing that you can come in and add value to the property by putting all those expenses onto the tenants, that
yeah,
gain would actually be recognized by your investors, right?
that is correct. Yep.
Yeah.
So the other side though, like for example, like initially I had looked at this deal 2 ways, and I was like, okay, like I was already doing syndications on some other properties. And so I had kind of made the decision on this one. I was like, I could syndicate it, or I could take it down with one partner. The challenge is when you're syndicating something like this, um, the investors aren't going to make money while we're in the deal. They're not going to make money until we sell or unless we refinance it. Like right now, if we wanted to, we could refinance the property and then my investor could get paid back. I could get, my 200 grand back. And then we could just cash flow it, moving forward, we'd probably be making right about 20, probably like net somewhere around 18 to 20,000 a month. And so, we could do that, but my partner is 75 years old. He's also a hard money lender. And so
Wow.
I just kind of told him, I was like, I think the best opportunity for us is just to exit right now, take 3 million and move on to the next thing.
Yeah, for sure. Sure.
So, and the other side of it too, it depends on where you're at too. Like if you, like for me, I own a variation of properties, Eric and I had this conversation earlier today too. So like I don't pay a lot of I don't pay federal income tax because I own enough properties and I have enough depreciation or write-offs where I meet with my CPA quarterly and I know exactly where I'm at.
Well, hey,
So I know if I need to buy another project in order to,
yeah.
create more expenses and create more depreciation or not.
Mitch, let's build a runway for that conversation because what I was asking, like, asking to learn from you with all your experience, like, we was talking about note investing, right? And what is it
Mm-hmm.
like to have 700 plus notes active, which we
Mm-hmm.
know people who have that business, right?
Yeah,
When I look at that, the information that I know, I'm like, okay, well, they make great income, but Uncle Sam gets half of it because they don't own anything.
that's correct.
And then when I told that to
That was one of
you,
the things I didn't like about flipping houses. I didn't like that about flipping houses.
yeah. Well, when I told that to you, though, you had a completely different outlook to it, just because, I mean, I look at it as just, your level of experience on these things. And you're just like, hey, listen, like if I need a write off, we'll just go buy apartment complex, right?
Yeah, so if you look at it, let's say like everybody on the team, we started buying properties, and let's say you know, we were gonna buy 15 complexes this year, and we wholesaled 13 of them out, and we had a bunch of money that we made on there, and then we ended up keeping two or three of them. The goal is to figure out quarterly, how much cash did you bring in, and how much write-offs and depreciation do you have? So by the time we get to summertime, you know, for me, like I said, I'm meeting with my CPA multiple times a year. I always want to know exactly where I'm at because I want to know if I sold this property, do I need to 1031 exchange it, or can I take the cash and move it into something else?
Right.
I mean, I'm not taking the money when I'm selling it. Like for example, when I sell this, I'm going to have 1.5 million in cash. Um, then I'm not going to have to pay taxes on because I already have enough write-offs and depreciation rolling forward. It's kind of like rolling losses. So if I'm always buying projects or I'm involved in projects and I own percentages of equity over multiple deals, I have lots of depreciation. So to give you an example, like my partner on this deal, he's a hard money lender. So I give him an option. He had funded a lot of deals for me. This is somebody I just met at an REI meeting. In fact, I didn't even meet him in our REI meeting. I met him at a project that I was trying to help somebody else out with, and I just happened to meet him there. And then I didn't see him for a year, and I ran into him at an REI meeting, and he knew me and remembered from that one, experience that we met at a property. And then, we kind of just got to know each other at the REI meetings, and then he asked me what I was doing in projects, and I asked him, you know, um, if he was interested in lending on properties, and that's pretty much how it started. So that this particular investor probably borrowed somewhere between 8 and 10 million from
Wow.
over the past 4 or 5 years.
But how
And
much
then
money
so
do
it
you
got
think
to a
he's
point
made?
with this project where I could have borrowed money from him again. So I gave him the option. I said, do you want to be do you want to just lend on it, or would you like to be a partner and, take advantage of some of the depreciation and write-offs? It would help offset your hard money lending business. And so, I mean, over the past couple of years, even though, we're going through renovations and COVID and all that stuff. I mean, I think year one, we both got $250,000 write-off from this property alone. Year two was probably 200, and I think this year was like another 160 each. So we both took over, you know, almost $700,000 in tax write-offs that depreciated, um, all of the income that we made in other places.
Yeah. Yeah, that's extraordinary, man. So you had a lender come in, and instead of you just taking his money, putting it into a deal, giving him a interest payment or a payment on that, you let him be a part of it, which allowed him to recognize tax-free income, tax-free gains on that investment. Is that what I heard?
Exactly. Yep.
Dude,
That's it. That's exactly. A lot of people don't realize too. Like, there's a lot of people you probably know day to day. This is, one of the things too is some of the people on the team are going to be capital raisers. Um, some of the best places to raise capital are from doctors, dentists, people who are high net worth earners. They're W-2 people also. They're in one of the highest tax brackets.
yeah,
So for them, like when we do get to a point where we're going to syndicate, just what'll happen is we'll sell shares of ownership to these people. And the reason why we'll sell shares, they're not necessarily looking for this big, cash flow every single month. What they're looking to do is to lower their taxable income yearly.
right,
So by them having ownership in the deal, they're getting a K1 for depreciation, write-off, and losses. So if they make 500,000 a year and they're paying 250,000 a year, they're motivated to. They're more than happy to become investors. I've done it several times with medical professionals who are high net worth earners. Same thing with I mean, in some of them, I mean, we've had Google engineers, Apple engineers, from all over the country investing in the deals because it reduces their taxable income.
yeah, yeah. My dentist is one of my lenders, which yeah, I would love to get him into something bigger. So yeah, that is awesome, dude. That is absolutely awesome. Yeah, I'm excited about what's to come in the future, man, for sure. I think everybody's going to want to definitely contact us and talk about being a part of this for sure. Um,